Okay, in this video we're going to make a little jelly printed picture similar to this one here. This one is a little bit smaller, ours is going to be slightly bigger, and it's going to be made on the 6x6 inch jelly plate, and I've got it attached to a piece of perspex because we're going to be turning it over and lining up our prints this way. So you'll need this, and we're using open acrylics, golden open acrylics, and I've got a variety of colours here, but you can use whatever colours you have at hand. It's always handy to have some that are opaque and some that are transparent. So for instance, the quinacridine magenta and the manganese blue are very transparent, and so is the green gold, whereas the teal is very opaque. I've got a variety of things for pressing in to make some textures. So I've got some bubble wrap, a tapestry, plastic, some textured wallpaper, and I've got a variety of things for making masks out of. So some of them are commercial, these are ones that have been bought. And these are ones that I've cut myself out of plastic folder dividers. So you'll need some of those. And then finally you'll need something to create your image, and again I've cut it out of a plastic folder divider. So here I've got my little tree, and this is what I'm going to use to make the shape of the ground underneath, and this is what I'm going to use to make the little moon, which again has been cut out of plastic folder divider just with a craft knife. You will also need a sponge and some paint just for the end, just for sponging in the extra bits of colour, and finally to decorate your final image, once it's dry, a couple of different paint pens in different colours. So for them I've got these Posca paint pens, variety of different colours, and maybe a white gel pen. You'll need some paper and a brayer and some scrap paper to roll your brayer onto, and that's it. You might want to have a couple of sheets of paper because sometimes you take a ghost print before you do the next layer. Okay, so I'm going to start off just by making my first layer, which is just a plain colour, quite a light colour that we can layer up onto. So we'll start with the blue. That's our first layer. So next layer we're going to mask off some of those bits. This is where you will get a ghost print onto a second sheet, so you can work on two at once. It's usually best to let these dry a little bit in between layers because the open acrylic is still quite wet, and if you work on top it can tend to muddy it a little bit. So I'm going to just let this dry before I move on to the next layer. If you find it easier to put the masks down onto the image, then by all means do that instead of pressing them into the jelly plate. And this time I'm going to press into this one a little bit, with some textures, just to lift up some of the colour. Okay, finally I'm going to make the shape of my tree. So I'm taking some Payne's Grey, which is the darkest colour that I want to use here. Need to go all the way to the bottom because I'm going to mask that bit off anyway. And again, if you want to press in some textures, go ahead and do it. So now I'm going to position my tree and the ground. Okay, so there's the cute little landscape. As you can see, it's still quite light. If you want, you can take a sponge and darken parts of it up. I'm going to roll some paint onto this. So I'm just going to use my jelly plate just to roll the colour out. So first of all, I'm going to get rid of this one, and this print is kind of looking a little bit messy, but that's okay. So I'm going to roll out some teal. Nope, I don't need to do it over the whole plate. I'm just rolling out enough that I can press this into the paint to pick it up. And we'll see if this works. So it's just giving us an extra little bit of texture and lines at the bottom along the line of the tree. If you want, you can also turn this over and print onto here. Make sure that there's no colour on the rest of your plate. So I think I'm going to do this just to add a little bit of extra interest. Okay. So that gives another little layer onto the bottom. Can you see where the lines went? Actually, I quite like it. It looks a bit like grass. Finally, I'm going to put some white acrylic onto a little palette. Doesn't have to be open. And I'm also going to put some Payne's Grey on. Just a small amount. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this back down, and I'm going to take my sponge and I'm just going to darken up around the edge of the tree. Careful when you're doing that to put the side down that doesn't have any paint on it. Now I'm going to take a different sponge and my little moon stencil. Going to use this one, and I'm just going to sponge in the moon. Okay, so before the next step you'll need to let that dry completely. You can't work onto it with paint pens until it is completely dry. So we'll come back once that's dry and I'll show you the final step. Okay, so now that this print is dry, we're going to just work into it just a little bit with some paint pens. So if you look back at this one, I just added some little stars and drew around the tree and added some little dots on the bit that was painted here. So you can do a similar kind of thing and just go for it and just doodle really. These are Posca paint pens, the fine point, and I've got a white gel pen as well. This is a good way of tidying up any lines. making bits stand out, adding interest. And just making it look generally more finished and complete. Okay, I think that's enough for this one. So here's your cute little jelly printed tree. I hope you've really enjoyed watching this and have fun doing the same kind of process yourself. Thank you. Bye.